Pentax just announced in a new video a few hours ago that they're going to release not just one, but several new film cameras in a whole new series. And that shocked me as a Pentaxian, and I'm sure the rest of the Pentax world, as well as the film community as a whole, is going to cause this ripple effect. I'm really interested to hear all of your comments. We don't know a lot. I'm going to go over what we know from this video because there are some very interesting things. And from that, also a little bit of what I worry about might happen, and some things in the video that worry me. And then what I'm excited about and what I hope Pentax will do with this new opportunity. This is very exciting. So let's get right into what we know from this video. In typical Pentax fashion, the video is very underwhelming at first. It's in Japanese with English subtitles. There's no flashy intro or a flashy announcement of any kind. It's just kind of a person being interviewed about some thoughts they have about this direction Pentax is taking. I didn't even click on the video at first until somebody told me to, and I'm really glad they did. But despite Pentax's lack of marketing skills, there are some really interesting tidbits in this video. First, we get a little bit of background about why Pentax wants to release a film camera now. And a lot of it has to do with the increasing cost of vintage cameras and the lack of repairability of those old cameras. If they break, they break. There's not parts made for them, and the people that can service them are far and few between. So the idea of bringing a film camera that's affordable and that can still be serviced so that we can continue enjoying film far into the future. And this is something I think film shooters will generally agree with. And new film cameras is just a good thing to have. Like I said, we don't get a lot of details about the cameras themselves, except if you look at the thumbnail, you do get to see some sort of somebody working on a camera, and I can't quite tell if this is a camera that's already existing and they're just taking it apart, or if this is a camera that's already in development. Really, the only hint they give us of what exactly to expect is that they say they're not releasing just one film camera, but a series of new film cameras, and that they're going to start with a cheaper SLR and kind of work their way up to nicer cameras, even a fully mechanical film camera, which the idea of that in the modern 2020s sounds very cool to me. This is something that I and a lot of other Pentaxians, people that love Pentax nowadays, have been saying Pentax should do. They really need to get into these niches that are up and rising, either capitalize and make a retro looking digital camera like a Fujifilm or Olympus, or make a film camera. And that's what we've been saying for years. So this is very exciting. But there are a few telltale signs in this video that do worry me, because this is Pentax. The first thing is with Pentax's digital history. We know that Pentax thinks in years and years and years. So if they say they're developing a series of film cameras, it is quite possible that we will not see anything for a number of years. And that might seem shocking. Maybe a few of you are thinking we might see something next year or the year after. And I really hope that's the case, but it's also quite possible that we get 3, 4, 5 years down the road before we see anything. And this is evidenced by a couple things. Pentax's first digital full frame camera wasn't until 2016, years and years and years and years after all the other companies were making full frame cameras. Also, in its recent DSLR history, Pentax's K3 Mark III came years and years after it was first rumored to be in development. And then if you just look at their lens roadmaps, they'll often announce that a lens is being developed, and then we won't see it for 3, 4, 5 years. Of course, as a consumer, it's a bummer to have to wait a long time for something, but more importantly, when Pentax takes a long time to release something, they often miss their opportunity because of that. For example, their latest DSLR, the Pentax K3 Mark III, was really mostly compared to the 5-year-old Nikon D500, and it actually went kind of neck and neck with it in a lot of ways, but 5 years later. I'm worried that if Pentax takes too long, other manufacturers are going to step in, whether that's a startup or an established brand, and fill that much needed but small niche of new film cameras. The other thing that really worries me is a couple times in this video, Pentax mentions the need for accessible and inexpensive film SLRs. The problem I have with that statement is that, is there really a need for inexpensive film SLRs? If you go to eBay or whatever site you use for used goods and look, at any given time, you're going to find tons of film cameras, cheap SLRs that you can grab for 20 bucks any day from Canon, Nikon, Pentax even. And these cameras still work great. Sure, they might break, but they're 20 bucks and you could probably shoot hundreds of rolls through them before they actually break. And then just replace them with a brand new $20 one. And you're kind of saving these things from going to the garbage heap until they're ready to go to the garbage heap. And I just don't think there's actually a need for a cheap film SLR. And I don't know what they mean by that, but if they release something like the Pentax ZXM or whatever that series was of these cheap film cameras for $100 maybe, that's cool. But once again, I don't know if that's really needed. Maybe in 10 or 20 years that'll be needed, and maybe they're thinking that far ahead because they're going to take that long to release it. Hopefully not. But as of right now, I don't think that type of camera is needed. And that leads me to what I want to see Pentax release if they're going to release a new film camera. I want Pentax to focus on what people really need, what the film community is missing. I want them to look at those much wanted, those much desired film cameras that are either breaking and cannot be fixed anymore and swoop in and take that, or just look at the most in-demand cameras and figure out what people like about them. Take the compact point and shoots with fast, very sharp lenses. That's a market that could very well be filled. Those cameras, people always worry about them breaking, and some of those models are getting into the hundreds, even thousands of dollars to buy. There's also the more premium SLR, autofocusing SLRs, like this Pentax Z1P that they produced. Beautiful camera, or their latest before they stopped producing, Pentax MZS, I think it was called. People love those cameras, but they're worried about the little plastic gears breaking and bricking the camera. Cameras like that, I think, would also do well. I also think they should look at unique features, like those Nikons with the manual dials, those analog dials that would show different settings. That is really cool and unique. And I think they should be looking at other ways that people can connect with the past, connect with analog. That's part of the film resurgence. And if they can capitalize on that somehow with some other tactile feel of some kind, connection, wooden grips, whatever it may be, if they can connect with that and really add those to the models, I think they'll be in a good spot. Oh, another good idea. I hope you're listening, Pentax. Something like an Hasselblad X-Pan. Now I know a lot of that system is people love the lenses, but hear me out, like a 35mm wide aspect ratio camera. Right now, people are trying to 3D print those. There's just not a lot of options on the market, and I think they could do it with some of their existing Pentax glass, some of their full frame glass, I think, but then certainly things like their medium format glass, they could work that out so that you could do a 35mm panoramic camera. That would be really neat. There's also a lens that I think Pentax really needs to release next, and I explain why in this next video. I'll see you over there, and until next time, happy snapping.